Welcome back everyone to the Two-Headed Wolf Gaming channel and last Epoch as we continue the journey from Sentinel to Paladin. And at the end of the last episode, we were close to level 7, now we're at level 12, almost level 13, and I've got a bunch of skill points to spend and some new gear to try out and get a feel for the new power level. If you're a bit confused about what's happening in between the episodes, I've been farming for some extra skill, for a bit of more experience, and I left all the details of what I'm doing with this series down in the description below, or you can watch the previous episode where I explain a few of these things which I'm doing. With this in mind, let's get into it. And as soon as I hit level 7, I unlocked a brand new skill called Shield Bash, which requires a shield. It is a melee directional attack that stuns enemies for 1 second, 100% increased stun duration against non-boss enemies, and it also has 1.5% more damage per 1% block chance, up to 150% multiplicative with other modifiers. So you can see that Shield Bash has a damage of 44, and that's multiplied by the block chance. Shield Bash is really effective as stunning mini bosses and bosses. Even though I have a 40% melee stun chance, it's not really applying to bosses. As far as I saw, it didn't really work. However, every time I use Shield Bash, it seems like it's almost a guarantee to stun even a boss. And that is pretty cool. I decided to use this as much as I can. But first of all, let's quickly take a look at some of the gear which I've gathered and I decided that I am going to equip. Nothing too special, armor with a bit more armor and some physical resistance. I am going to show it off. I like the fact that armor changes whenever you change it. Helmets for some reason disappear when you change some of this gear, but it's not that big of a deal. This will be improved in time, I am sure. A helmet with once again a bit more armor, a bit of fire resistance, some void resistance, that's also good. We also have this emblem which gives us 16% chance to ignite, that sounds pretty good to me. I have nothing too special over here, so we're just gonna replace it. I also have a better shield with extra block effectiveness and extra block chance, and I think this is a good moment to also look at how block works. We have a block chance, the chance that you'll block a hit from an attack or a spell. When you block a hit, you take reduced damage based on the block effectiveness, which is right here. At this moment we are at 75, so it takes sort of an average of the area level, and if you are in areas of lower level than you will have a higher block effectiveness. If you are in areas which are of a higher level than you, then you will have reduced block effectiveness. What happens when you block a hit? Well, the damage that you take from that hit is mitigated, is reduced by this percentage right here. So it's not a 100% block, it's not 100% effectiveness in blocking hits, unless I'm guessing you scale it up. I don't know if there is a limit to this, but I guess we will discover it later on. Armor works the same way. Dodge seems to be 100% dodge, like they miss you, things like that. So we throw that shield in, once again, nothing too special. I found this club, which sounds pretty good, has 42% increased stun chance with melee attack, extra necrotic damage that doesn't do anything for me, and it also has a 24% chance to ignite on hit. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the forge. This is the crafting system that the game has. And we're gonna throw the club over here. We're gonna try to modify it around. I have a bunch of materials, even from the testing that I've done before starting to record this series, and also from this run, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to throw in. We have a chance to ignite, and we have a chance to stun with melee attacks. All of these will add up together. This one, unfortunately, we cannot remove at the moment. I could either throw something else in, like some physical damage, and that could be quite good. And it would cost us between 1 to 18 forging potential. We have 21 in total. Let's add that in. So we gain a bit of extra physical damage. I am going to try to upgrade. Let's upgrade the stun chance over here. And there we go. That was the maximum crafting that we could have done on this item. There are plenty of items within the game, and crafting potential can be very important. Even a normal item with a high crafting potential can become a really strong item in the long run. And we're gonna replace the club that we're using at the moment. Once again, it's not the most amazing weapon in the world, but it will have to do. Then we have some better gloves, a slightly better sash here, better boots. Not gonna spend too much time. As I said, early equipment is not that impressive unless I find one of these uniques. It's not something that we want for the moment, but it's something that I'll stash and we will use it maybe at some point with some other character. This wand here provides us with the following effects. Your minion spells and bow attack deal 114% more damage. Your minions leech 10% of the damage dealt by their spells and bow attacks as health. 10% increase minion bow attack speed, and 11% increase minion cast speed. This is a really cool item, and we're gonna use it in order to speed up the early process of playing what will be, I'm guessing this is going to be for the Warlock class. And finally, let's talk about the idol system, which I have just unlocked here. The idols and the spaces that you can see here, most of them are locked up right now. They will unlock as you play along the game, as you complete side quests and quests. And they allow you to throw in some of these idols which you will find within the game. All of these, they have a form. You'll play some sort of Tetris. Actually, Tetris is not the right choice there because you cannot spin them around. You cannot spin this in order to make them fit. They have their shape and you will have to throw them in such a way to maximize the bonuses that you are getting. We can either throw in at the moment a 9% chance to ignite on hit and 12 health, or we could go with 6 health on kill, 9% increased physical damage, and 9% increased minion physical damage. Even though I am quite tempted at throwing even more chances to ignite because we already have built a bit of that, I feel like getting 6 health on kill is actually good, plus the extra physical damage. So we're gonna throw this in at the moment, and we're gonna leave this one aside for later on, maybe when we unlock an extra slot or two. Okay, that's that with the equipment. Let's go into our passives. We have a new level unlocked here of skills, or a new tier of skills. We get counterattack. When you are hit, you have a chance to counterattack enemies with Retribution, a melee physical attack that deals damage to nearby enemies. The effect has a 0.2 second cooldown. Retribution is different than the riposte that you are doing. So Retribution is separately. If you pick this, there is a chance that I'll do an extra attack besides the ones that I'm doing with Vengeance. And I like that. I'm gonna throw a point here. I'm not gonna go deeper than that, but that extra point, that 6% chance, it's still something. Then we can invest into Relentless, where we increase damage by 5% per point, plus get 20 stun avoidance. We could also invest into Armor Clad, getting 15% armor, or not 15%, 15 points of armor, and reduce the damage taken from nearby enemies by 2% per point. Or, something that I really care for, get Stalwart. You have a higher chance to block hits and take less damage from hits that you block. The only thing that is scaling up is the block effectiveness by 30 points per point invested. I get 3% block chance. That is not going further no matter how much I invest into this one. But I do want block effectiveness and all that because it also increases the effectiveness that we have over here with Shield Bash. It increases the damage. So we're going to go back into passives. I am going to invest 1 point into Fearless. Then I'm going to invest points into Stalwart. Over here, I've unlocked Valiant Charge, where you increase cooldown recovery speed for movement skills by 6%. Not something that I really care for, and 6 health per point is not, once again, something that I find that useful. So I'm going to invest 2 points here into Stalwart. Then we have 2 more points that I have to decide what I want to do going forward. Resistances could be useful, I guess. Some extra armor could also be useful. And I think for the moment I am just going to invest in armor and reduce the damage taken from nearby enemies. So we're gonna go this way until we unlock the next tier. I've also unlocked a new ability called Shield Rush, which requires a shield. Charge through enemies in the target direction until you release the ability key. You hit enemies in your path in a wider area at the end of the movement. You do not regenerate mana while rushing. This one has a really high mana cost of 50 points. That is something that we should try out, and we shall see how effective it is. Because I decided that Shield Bash is one of the skills which I want to use, I threw this one into the second specialization slot, which I have unlocked at level 8. We're not going to go into it just now, we're not going to level it up. I'm going to show you how Shield Bash works naturally, and then we're going to talk more about the upgrades that Shield Bash has. Over here on the Vengeance side, I decided to go for Zealot's technique, get that extra riposte. So we're gonna start investing into Dark Duelist. You deal more global damage, multiplicative with other modifiers, while preparing to riposte. So we're getting 4 extra damage per point invested. We need 4 points over here to get Zealot's technique, and then we will decide what we do going forward. Whew. I've been quite excited. It's very difficult not to spend points or equip the equipment that you find for a very long time. But it is also, I think it's going to be very satisfying now after going through the game without a high power level and now investing all of those points into it. I think it's going to be very interesting and very fun to try out. Okay, we'll change launch here. I am going to go with Shield Rush, and we'll also be using the Shield Bash ability. So, Shield Rush, let's see. It's pretty much running through them with extra damage. I'm sure you can make some sort of Shield Rush build. I wonder how much survivability you might need for it. But as you can see over here, it's using a whole lot of mana. You might even see that we are going into negative mana. This is something that this game has to prevent those annoying moments where not enough mana, not enough mana, not enough mana, like Diablo. Like, I hate that in Diablo 4. The constant mana starvation and the fact that you can it's very difficult to actually get enough mana regeneration to use these skills which actually matter rather than your basic attack is really annoying in Diablo 4. But in this game, they allow you to go into the negative. That means that for a while, you won't be able to use skill. I mean, you use your skill, you go into the negative, and then it will take a little bit for you to regenerate your mana back up and have the potential or the ability to cast another skill. I think it's a very nice and relaxed way in which you can play. This is interesting, however, it feels a bit too expensive on the mana side, and the other thing which I find a bit annoying is that it's not instant. Lunge is a lot faster and I like that more. So I'm going to go back to lunge. We have a new level up here, so I'll invest another point into... I guess we could go with a few points into Relentless as well. 5% extra damage per point, plus another 20 point of stun avoidance. Well, let's go with Armor Clad, why not? Multi-Strike, a melee attack that grants a stack of armament if you hit at least one enemy. Well, what is armament? Each stack of armament causes an additional sword to strike a nearby enemy when you use Multi-Strike. Armament stacks up to 2 times and each stack lasts 3 seconds. So it's another one of those basic attacks. You can see the mana cost there is 0. We're gonna change this just for a second. Okay, the attack looks fairly basic. Okay. So you can see that as soon as we attack one enemy, there's another strike going down on the nearby enemy. So it's slightly different than Vengeance, where we need to get hit in order to riposte. Once again, not something that I want to use for this build. I do want that damage mitigation, so we're gonna stay with it, but it is an interesting skill either way. Now let's also we're gonna go towards this main quest here, and I'm going to show you the Shield Bash. I feel like it's fairly important for right now to show it off. Then we can upgrade it. So Shield Bash does this. You see that it has quite a large area of effect. It's right in front of you, nothing surrounding or anything like that. It's just in the direction in which you target your mouse. However, it's pretty good. And on normal enemies, the stun duration is increased by 100% naturally. You don't need to modify it in any way. I'm sure there are items within the game which will push this even further. I would say that it doesn't seem like it matters too much whether you have that or not. But who knows how the late game is. I guess there is a chance that enemies have reduced stun duration, right? So maybe it's in those situations that you want to have the increased stun duration so that it balances out. The thing that I love the most about an ability like Shield Rush has been the fact that you can stop many of the enemy's skills as they charge up. If you see them prepare for a certain skill, then you can use Shield Bash to stun them and remove them from, or stop them from using that ability for a second or two. You can see that the damage, if we look at damage, it's not that impressive. If we look at survivability, I think we're doing fairly well here. We can tank most of the attacks, and especially when we're using Vengeance. And I think one of the big things is also the fact that we cannot get critically hit. And that's we're mostly resisting. Another level up on Vengeance. That means an extra point of damage, another 4%. Which is here. And I think it might be a good time to also start investing. Now that I've shown off the Shield Bash, it's time to start investing over here. And I will talk about the skill tree at the end of the episode. For right now, what I want us to focus on is what I decided, the direction in which I decided to go, which is over here, Power Rush. After you use Shield Rush or Lunge, so either this or the Shield Rush ability which we've unlocked earlier, you Shield Bash in the direction you traveled. Shield Bash must have a cooldown, be charged, and on your action bar for this effect to work. So we'll still need to have it equipped in order for us to use this when we use an ability like Lunge. In order to get here, we will need to invest 3 points in the previous skill, which is Protective Impact. Shield Bash grants you an additional block chance and block effectiveness for a short duration. We get 3% block chance per invested point and 100 points for block effectiveness per invested point. That is really good. We're gonna invest in this. We're gonna pick Power Rush over here. And I believe the next thing I want to do is get down here, where we get Block Out. But apparently we've been seen by the enemy, and you've seen there, as I use the Lunge ability, we're also doing the Shield Bash. However, one of the things that happened is that the Shield Bash ability is going in a cooldown. So that is a bit unfortunate, but what can you do? Is this good? 10 health, some void resistance, damage over time, not the best. Let's see, do we have another enemy? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do Lunge. And yes, Shield Bash goes on a cooldown, so you will not be able to do another Shield Bash afterwards at this point. We could also use it, we could also decide to use it with Shield Rush, but I think there's an effect here that we need to take into consideration. So we're using Shield Rush, and at the end of it, we are doing the Shield Bash, which is quite impressive. We can do a lot of damage like this, and also stun the enemies at the end, thus rushing straight in the middle of them will not put us in danger. But there's one thing that I think works like I'm thinking it works, and you need to know. Shield Rush consumes 50 mana. Shield Bash consumes 9 mana. If we don't have enough mana here to apply both Shield Rush and Shield Bash, I believe that Shield Bash does not act. We're gonna try this. I'm going to do some of these Warpath. We'll use as much mana as we can, and then we'll do now a shield rush. And as you can see, it did not do a shield bash at that moment. So we'll try this again. Yes, if you do not have enough mana at the end of the shield rush, you will not be able to trigger shield bash. Something to keep in mind as you go forward. We're going back to shield bash. I am going back to assigning some skills. And as I said, I want now to go towards blockout because shield bash would also blind enemies on hit, making us harder to hit. And I think this is really good, especially since we're jumping straight in the middle of enemies. We'll have to invest 2 points in the previous skill called Perfect Bulwark. For 4 seconds after using Shield Bash, you are guaranteed to block a limited number of hits. Only works if Shield Bash has a cooldown. So we get per point invested 1 guaranteed block. And that's actually really cool. Okay. So far so good. I feel like we're putting something together here that might work for later on. Let's see, let's pick the lunge ability. And to be honest, if you look at this area, I think anyone who has played an ARPG before or an RPG before looks at the map, sees this arena, sees these 3 weird looking people here, and know that the boss battle is about to happen, right? Yep. Okay, let's try to stun them all. Well, we stun 2 out of 3. We're also doing some ignites there, as you can see at the top, right beneath their name. Every once in a while you can see a flame icon, that's ignite. That's the fact that we apply ignite on them. These bosses are not too bad. I think it works really well. I mean, there's not a high amount of damage that these enemies are doing. However, it's showing you 3 elements, 3 different mechanics. It's constantly changing. You constantly have to dodge some area of effect, some beams. It's easily avoidable. They're not too quick. And I feel like this is another one of those nice tutorials before you go further into the game. Really starving for some extra damage. Maybe I should think about investing, maybe taking out some of the armor that we have invested in the passive skill tree and go for damage instead. I don't think I'm going to do it, but that's something to keep in mind. I think one of our big problems is also the fact that we do not have an impressive weapon, nothing that you would write home about. And now it's one-on-one. He has absolutely no chance. With the rebuke ability available to us, I haven't been using Warpath that often anymore. We're gonna replace that ability probably very soon. Extra helmet, yeah, okay. Nothing too special. I've returned to the village, submitted some quests, and we also got our first unique glove called Avarice, which increases the elemental damage. No, it has a 3% chance of elemental damage leech as health. We're doing some fire damage, so that might apply. Increase leech rate and gives us 13% elemental damage. We don't have better gloves. We just have 13 lightning resistance, which will be replaced by the 13 elemental resistances and some health regeneration. Okay, so we're gonna throw these gloves in. We've also gained through the quest. This is one important thing. Do side quests. do side quests because there's a lot of points that you can gain by doing so. I don't know, I don't have a list at this moment for which ones give you what, but I just encourage you to do them. So we have a new level here of skills unlocked. We have Banish, where Retribution deals increased damage and has an additional chance to critically strike. An interesting skill if we were to invest a lot more into counterattack, which I don't want to do at this moment. We could also invest into Time and Faith, where we regain health and mana when we directly use Rive, Vengeance, Smite, or Multi-Strike. These are the basic attacks, right? Well, Vengeance is the attack that we are using. Multi-Strike and Rive we've seen before, are those, like Multi-Strike is right here, and Rive we've unlocked when we were in the Gardens. This sounds good to me. We're getting some mana regeneration by hitting enemies and some health, that sounds good. We get the Edges of Renewal, where we have a 25% chance to gain health whenever we block. 10 health gain on hit. I like this. And what I want to do now is invest 1 point here and 1 point here. And I'll tell you why I don't want to just go fully into one of these skills and then into the other. Right now, by investing 1 point in each of these skills, they have a chance to activate at the same time. Right? We are attacking an enemy, so this one activates and we gain some health. And there's also a chance that we'll block an enemy and we'll gain 10 health. So putting all of this together would mean that we're getting more regeneration than, for example, here, if we were to invest 2 points and we would gain 20 health when we block an attack, well, it has to happen. The block has to activate. If it doesn't activate, then, well, c'est la vie. So that's why I want to invest 1 point in each of those skills. To begin with, specializing might be something that we want to do later on. Of course, the value of it drops, especially I'm guessing into the late game, when enemies are doing 50 damage, 100 damage, 200 damage at once. You don't want to regenerate just 15 health. You move some of the points and you specialize in the block, for example, because if you maximize the Aegis of Renewal, then when you block, you get 50 health, and that is a lot more effective than 15. Somehow that made a bit more sense in my head, but we are talking also about a huge difference in point. If I invest 5 points in both of those skills, it's definitely a higher value than if I invest only into one. Anyway, we'll do a bit more damage here, but I think we're about to call it a day. As soon as we hit level 14, I think we'll be done. Either way, this has been a very interesting experience. I'm looking forward now to farming further. And we shall see what the next power level is like. For now, I am happy with how things turned out. Hope you have enjoyed it as well. If you did, do consider leaving a like. If you have any feedback for the format and the way I'm doing things, or even now or in further future episodes, let me know, because I am curious to hear your opinion about how this goes. It's a format that I thought about as a way that I enjoy content. I was thinking, if I wake up one day and we have one class per day, it means that early in the day when I'm going to work, then I am going to look at half an hour on my way there, on the bus or anything. And then when I come back from work, then I'll have some extra time where I can just sit back for about an hour more or an hour and a half today to watch a character getting to a higher level and skip all the boring parts in between. We found a new unique item, or legendary item I believe it's called in this game, and we will check it out. I hate these spawners, to be honest. No blind. 34% cold resistance, 97% freeze rate multiplier, 40 armor, 40% chance to chill out on hit with cold skills. So chances to hit on cold skills, but we're not using those and cannot be blinded. Definitely better with some resistances and armor. We're gonna throw that in. Okay, the graphics don't look exactly the same, but maybe they'll improve it in the future. And with the passive skill point at this moment, we're gonna invest in Relentless. I want 10% extra damage and a bit more on stun avoidance. And with that in mind, that's it for today. Hope you have enjoyed it. As I said, look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Now it's time for me to do some farming, and I'm guessing we're getting close to ascending, or however it's called, mastery, pick a mastery, something like that. Maybe that's where I'll start the next episode. Bye bye everyone.